Good morning, everyone. And I just want to give a hat tip to the ladies who just spoke. Listening to them makes me realize why I kind of toil in the trenches of helping women's causes, and we need more people like that. So let's take a second, as Steffi recommended, and think what they have been through and all the people that need our help. What I'm going to talk about for the next few minutes is actually hashtag activism. Let me see a show of hands. How many of you are familiar with hashtag activism? Okay, pretty much everybody. And a lot of people have many different thoughts on what hashtag activism is and if it is truly effective. Just the complete definition, hashtivism, if that's a word, we're going to make it a word today, the use of hashtags on social media, mainly but not solely on Twitter, to express and promote a political or social position. So we're all on the even playing field now. However, for hashtag activism to be effective, it must be paired with real-world activism. So what is that activism? We heard the women right before talking about some of the challenges they are facing in Syria and elsewhere. So those of us who are far, far away, or maybe 500 miles away, can go ahead and hit the retweet button, correct? Or we can share with our friends. Is that truly helping? Is that making a difference? Well, you can make the case that it is doing more than doing absolutely nothing. But my suggestion and my recommendation is, if you are going to do that, take the extra few minutes to understand what you're retweeting, understand what you're sharing, maybe even go the extra mile and sign a petition, or write a check. And therefore, you're moving away from doing just the minimal, doing just the hashtag button pushing. Has anybody here heard of Slacktivism? Many of kind of the younger generation, I used to be one of them, many of you are. I'd like to say that I'm now a woman of age. But Slacktivism has been a word thrown at some of the younger folks that have taken on to social media and not gone the extra mile. Well, I make the case that they are clearly going on the extra mile, or going the extra mile. And millennials, if any, are helping those of us of age to actually do things more than just hit the retweet button. So where did this all start? Okay, we all remember Arab Spring. It wasn't that long ago, 2008, I believe. And then Occupy Wall Street. These were movements that took off mainly from social media, mainly from Twitter, and then spreading to other platforms. And Kony 2012, you would have had to live under a rock, at least in North America, but I know it spread to Western Europe, which was the call to stop Ugandan warlord and war criminal Joseph Kony. A lot of people contended that it did nothing. After all, he is still free. However, in the United States, children who had no idea where Uganda was now at least knew that Uganda was in Africa. I know it's horrifying to consider that, but it's the case. So you can argue that Kony 2012 was just a kind of flash in the pan, but it did educate people that these atrocities were happening. And if you don't have education and awareness, you can't take the next step and do anything. Correct? And then justice for Trayvon, a real kind of tragic case in the United States for those of you who might not have missed it. But given that we are at DLD Women, I want to also make the case and the contention that this year specifically has been the year of hashtag activism for women. Now, why is that? We all know, and pardon me to the brave men in the audience, but women innately are better communicators. And a recent study showed that in North America, 75% of women regularly use social media versus 63% of men. Don't know exactly why there is such a discrepancy. However, women find safety in social media. After all, you can do it from your pajamas, from your living room, from your dining room, on your cell phone, anywhere. But also, you can galvanize and find other people with similar interests, similar causes, similar passions. So if you look up at the slide, these are all from campaigns that were launched in the last year. I assume many of you know Bring Back Our Girls. Again, you could make the case that the girls are still missing. 63 of them have escaped, but there's still 200 or so that are missing. For 3 weeks back in May, there was relentless chatter online about these girls and what had happened to them and the fact that they were kidnapped. The media responded and covered it daily. It was in the New York Times, it was in the Financial Times, it was in Reuters, Wall Street Journal, and it did put pressure on governments to do something. Okay, no, they did not bring back the girls, but had that not taken off on social media, I can guarantee probably 50% of the people in this audience would never have heard of it. So again, it can work. Has anybody here heard of Ban Bossy? Lean In? I'm sure everybody's heard of Lean In, right? Okay. These are ways, these are mechanisms for women around the world and men to gather and share their opinion, find people who are of similar concern, and get involved. Okay? A few others on here that are interesting. Change the Ratio. Change the Ratio was a movement started in New York, actually, but spread, which is all about getting more women on the stage at conferences and women in the ranks of management and boards. Okay, you can bet if a conference is announced and it has 95 or 80% male white speakers, Change the Ratio is going to come after them and say, hey, where are the women? I Am Malala. Stand with Wendy. Wendy Davis was or is a state senator from the great state or the late state of Texas, however your political leanings are. And she filibustered, she stood for 11 hours to help fight for women's reproductive rights. And the Twitterverse responded in massive numbers. Something like 1 million tweets cheered her on during those 11 hours. So the benefits are real. We can't deny that. We raise awareness using hashtag activism. We help organize in a way that we could never do before social media. You give a voice to the voiceless. Those Nigerian girls did have a voice, and they still do. We educate. We increase civic engagement. And most importantly, and probably the most powerful tool that hashtag activism brings, is we garner media attention. But tweeting and sharing via social media is never will solve anything on its own. So my contention is, if you're going to do it, step up to the plate and at least understand what you're retweeting. Yesterday in my workshop, I suggested to everybody to take the 10 or 20 second rule before you hit the tweet button or the send button or the like button on Facebook. Give it a second thought. If you're going to support something, truly support it, understand it, and then meaningfully share it. So I just pose to you, is hashtag activism real, or is it Slacktivism? Thank you very, very much, and I wish you a wonderful rest of DLD, and thanks to the crew who put this together. It's a great conference.